When we sign a contract in America, we theoretically waive all moral rights. We are writers for hire, workers for hire, which is a complicated doctrine in which a creative person surrenders the right to copyright to the employer who pays for the work, which, you know, in some ways makes sense. I think it's significant that in the US, agents, large and small, do not commission residuals. They receive 10% of what they negotiate, but they don't get 10% of residuals. And why is that? Because it was the Guild who fought for and achieved residuals in 1960.
Our guild is not as old as Carl's, so as you may imagine. It's only 3 years old, actually 3.5. It was built after almost 25 years of a very chaotic history of French unionism. But now it's pretty strong. It has a strong financing and a permanent salaried team, which is me and my assistant, so it's not very big. But so now today we wanted to catch up with the lost time over the years. Mainly our occupation is obviously collective bargaining, but also, you know, like we like to contribute to or initiate reform projects. For instance, with the CNC, the French Film Institute, National Film Institute. For instance, we managed this year, right, just after before the summer, to force the producers to steer a small percentage of the public subsidies that they get every year to writing and project development. So this is very big for French writers, since you know, the fees for writing have been decreasing dramatically for years now.
First, I need to say that the Polish Screenwriters Guild, it's also a part of the Polish Filmmaker Associations, but the guild generally do not negotiate on behalf of the writers. They give support, they give help before and during the creative process of creating of the movie, and they generally offer some social and cultural help, but the contracts are negotiated individually by writers or by the agents. In Poland, we have a special statutory, unwaivable right, which is stated in the law for screenwriters, directors, and other co-authors of audiovisual works. And the users, not only broadcasters, but also the cinema owners, the DVD companies, needs to pay that remuneration through collective management organizations, no matter how the contracts looks like.
Wow.
It means that the contract cannot override the necessity of the user to pay that remuneration. So it is, in my opinion, much stronger than collective bargaining.
In 2008, the law has changed, and now every device and every storage media has to be levied if it is used for copies. This is really very important and a very good change in our law. That's the good news. The bad news is that's not easy to enforce this remuneration right for these levies. And we were successful in the field of PCs, so we were able to negotiate with the industry a levy for PCs, and we can distribute this money to our authors, to our membership, and but we were not able to do this in the field of all other devices and storage media. So there are a lot of cases pending before the courts, and it takes years, and it costs, of course, a lot of money, and when we do need improvement in this field from our national legislation, and well, we lobby for that together with the guild. And
I mean, I feel like slightly I'm the odd one out, because we have clients who can indeed fire us and go and find another agent, but if you are a member of the Writers Guild and you don't happen to like the Writers Guild, there's not really anywhere else you can go. I think one of the things we do that differs from the others is we actively go out and find work for our clients. I mean, we like it when they go out and find the work, but we do actually actively go out and find the work. And I think there are a number of things which we do that guilds don't or can't do, and that collecting sites can't, and vice versa. But I think there are also a number of things we have in common. A lot of our work is spent negotiating the way out at the end. And actually, more and more in the last 5 years, we find ourselves negotiating after deals have been signed, because it is tough out there.
We have an agreement with the Association of Talent Managers and Agents in which they operate theoretically under franchise from us. They need our permission to represent our members. Now, that contract hasn't been negotiated in 35, 40 years, but the concept is still there. And in recent years, we've discovered an abusive process in which the big agencies, who are in many ways gatekeepers and barriers to entry, make more money by packaging product than by representing talent. And the evils inherent in that is that if William Morris Endeavor or Paradigm or UTA or CAA package a television show, they take a percentage of the total budget, which is huge, and it's ongoing for years, years and years, billions of dollars per episode, a percentage of that off the top. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a client working on that show, if the client gets a raise, it cuts into the bottom line of the package. So
you're saying they work against each other.
They work against each other.
Conflict of interest.
Because there is no collection society per se for dramatic works in North America. I mean, you guys have a collection society,
yes,
right?
the Writers Guild of Canada has one, yes.
Yes, but the U.S. doesn't. So when the levies were negotiated back in 1992, we had to, since we were by collective bargaining representing the creative community, we agreed with the collection organizations in Europe that since we already had an existing database of writers and what they did and their past work, and we distributed residuals on a regular basis, more than $100 million a year for writers. We have a staff of 20 in the residuals department. Foreign levies amount to $8 or $10 million a year incoming. And the drawback was that we had to agree to distribute for all writers, right? Porn writers, uncredited writers, writers of uncovered work. If the work has an author for collection purposes, we have to find them and give them their fair share.
With the Collection Society, we have almost a natural relationship that this is the ACCD is the writer's home. I mean, they didn't always feel like that because they are not the only authors there, but they are a pretty important population. What we did was, with campaigning for having elected members on the board and the budget commission, etc., was to strengthen that link, which is very fundamental when we go bargaining with producers union, etc. When you have the guild and the ACCD together, of course it's it's better than going there by yourself and trying to gain a few things for 10 years.
Certainly I don't think we all have created by credits, but agents do negotiate those, and I think that many of the guilds don't have that, and we'd love to, but these are the ways that we can work together with agents because they cover things that we don't, and I think we just have to be on side and singing from that same hymn book. And I guess my last point, and I shouldn't be talking a moderator, is that we really want agents not to undercut the collective agreement. That is really, I think, our biggest ask. So,
in principle, I would agree with that. But if a client wants to make a deal which is below the minimum, we can't say no. We can't refuse. We are legally obliged to carry out the instructions of our clients. It's a legal obligation. That has.
And we can discipline our members for agreeing to that.
Yes, unfortunately we can't. But it's interesting because the PMA, which is the Association of Screenwriters Agents in the UK, I think now in many areas does work very well with the Guild. Bernie could talk about that better than I can. But there have been times when they've been quite antagonistic towards each other.
Of course, we do lobbying work together, and this is of course something which is more than important, because if guilds and collective management organizations work against each other's, everything is lost. So you can't explain a politician that you represent authors when the Authors Guild is saying, well, this collective management organization is not my friend. I mean, the last panel discussed these copyright issues and the attacks against copyright law, and we can only defend it if we are very, very close together with collective management organization, with guilds, with agents as well, with all rights holders, in fact, because otherwise the users will destroy the system, or at least weaken it more and more.
Whether what should be, a common front of these three parties to protect you is enough to make you able to create in a good environment without, being scared or stressed by, oh, what about my contract, and what about my fee, and what about the exploitations, etc. So this is where complementarity is really important, because when there is the feeling that most of the time, whether you say, I'm sorry, it's not going to be very, very easy to hear, but the worst enemy of the writer is the writer himself, because he doesn't always know how to value his work. And so when you have your collection society, your agent, and your guild who are saying, you have value, your work is valuable, well, it's just a question of having a little faith in you, and so when there is this complementarity, and I've seen this in many occasions. Well, it's not like you feel invincible, but at least it's a little bit more than.
There's a really important point. Writers do have to value their work. That means sometimes saying no to producers when they do not pay enough. Saying no is very empowering. It may cost you at the time, but it is the only way we can all increase the amount of money that writers can earn. You've got to be prepared to value yourself.